TV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature, societal issues, education, business, and innovation. EIN TV, educative, innovative, and nature-centric.
Hello, welcome to Environmental Resort on EIN TV. My name is Edion Tsinginen Dunobong. Okay, to our viewers who has been very anxious and anticipating of the full edition of the West to World series, I beg your pardon. I want to apologize sincerely. I want to open on that note that we apologize sincerely for not bringing that edition to you. But like I promise that series will come back next week, hopefully. We couldn't just help it, but have to bring up the conversation we're having today. Do not forget that this month, I think sometime a couple of days ago, we had the International Women's Day, and the air bubbled with the euphoria of that celebration, and everyone everywhere is celebrating women. It got to the point that men had to start saying, "Oh, they've started again this year," and the men will not even have a single day to celebrate and stuff. But do not worry, that one day we celebrate men, though it coincides with World Toilet Day, we don't have to worry. We just have to celebrate and mark our day. But again, you would agree with me that women are worth all the celebration. Women, they've sacrificed a whole lot. They've done tremendously well for us as a people, to come together. Imagine the world without women. What would have happened? So you see, they're worth all the celebration because they're a fantastic being. So by next week, or perhaps which I pray that another coincidence will not happen that we have to shift it again. But I made a promise that we would always have that series, Waste to Wealth, because I know there's a whole lot of opportunities to be shared with regards to converting waste to wealth. And I think we had the Afri plastic event where people are doing recycling with plastic and other stuff get to be celebrated across Africa. I think it's happening in Kenya. And coincidentally, today we have a very beautiful lady from Kenya who will be joining us share our thoughts on the topic we'll be talking about today. Do not forget the topic of this year's International Women's Day centers around gender equality. So today on the program, we had to see how to tweak the topic to fit into the climate justice lens. So today we'll be looking at the topic gender equality, looking it through the climate justice lenses. And joining us today from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, is a very beautiful lady. And like I do, say that there are people that are beautiful but are not beautiful. But this particular lady I'm about to introduce to us today is actually very beautiful because she's beautiful physically and intellectually. So you can possibly call her beauty with brain. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you as our guest for today. Will be sharing our thoughts as we mark the International Women's Day on EIN TV. If Wakanda, if you're welcome, I hope I did not murder your name. That's surname. I hope I didn't murder that.
Well,
did I get your surname right?
Wakanda is fine. No, Wakanda is okay.
Right.
Usually Wandaka, but Wakanda.
Wandaka, yeah, beautiful. I needed to get that right.
A lot of people get that, so I got used to it, and it's not such a bad thing, because Wakanda forever. So.
Yeah, well, Wakanda is that a Kenyan word or it's
Yes. Yeah.
Is it
No. It's of Kikuyu descent. A tribe in Kenya called Kikuyu.
Okay, so I just learned something new, and I believe viewers across the group actually had to learn that too. Okay, so Eve, you're welcome to the program. Welcome to Environmental Research. So good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me and for your lovely words and your introduction. I'm humbled.
No, I have to be very sincere, And then, so Eve, let's get to hit the ball rolling. We've been all over the world. We're celebrating women, and I know that Kenya wasn't an exception. And I know, as a very beautiful woman, like I had described you, wouldn't have stayed out of the euphoria and of course the process of getting to celebrate your gender. What has been the celebration like in Kenya?
The celebration reverberated across the country in various ways. Most women came together in solidarity. There were workshops, there were webinars, there were physical activities where women just came together and had that sisterhood kind of thing going on. For us, specifically for me, I took part in an art exhibition that we held at our office. It was on the theme. It was an all-woman-led art exhibition. We were tasked with coming up with a storyline of how we want the future to look like in framing the future in terms of the climate crisis. And so all of us took to task, and we put together all this material from the internet and some from our creativity. Some people drew. There were these mosaic and collages where there were representations of women in all sorts of backgrounds: agriculture, technology, innovation, transformative energy, just energy transition. And it was just a way of showcasing our understanding of what it is we mean when we say that women are unequally affected by the climate crisis. And so that's basically how we celebrated the International Women's Day, basing, of course, on the climate justice aspect. Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. I know you guys had a wonderful time. I saw the pictures on the internet. I was like, wow, something and super amazing. So yeah, I wanted to ask before we push further into the conversation. The issue of climate change, particularly in East Africa, has been quite alarming and worrisome. What has been the weather situation or the climatic situation over there in Kenya?
Just like quite adverse. We were expecting our long rain season to start at the beginning of March, and it's just now started. Reports are indicating that even though that we'll receive rain, it will be less of what we have experienced in previous seasons. And so there's been a lot of widespread heat, drought across the country, especially the northeastern region of the country. And so it was recently actually where organizations and as well as the government were putting together funds and resources to go to those sites, because it's quite bad. It's quite dire. The situation is very dire. So that has been the climatic situation in Kenya. A lot of heat, excessive heat rather, so now we're experiencing rain, and we are just waiting to see how long that will last.
But I can imagine that my heart goes to everyone there in Kenya, perhaps those ones in particular that are facing drought at this time. My sincere, I feel for them. But then that's what I keep saying. I tell people that that nature has a way of taking care of itself. And then we tend to suffer. Some time ago, I think about a couple of hours ago, I had written something on the internet, on the social media, saying that if we do not take care of nature, or when nature suffers, that we, the people, we humans, we tend to, also suffer as a result of our negligence of taking care of nature. So I want to believe that the people of those regions, suffering from the impact of climate change, that are doing their bit to, see that they do some ecosystem restoration, and of course, see how they could live in harmony with nature. And it may take some time, but I want to believe that in the course of time, that they to see how to restore themselves back to normalcy.
Yeah, it's a process. And like you're saying, because culture then now comes into play. These are things that they've done time immemorial. So how then do they move from what it is that they know and has worked for them to now adapting and building their resilience to be able to handle the effects of climate change? In situations like those ones, we find that they hold so much onto how they get their livelihoods, but as opposed to what are they supposed to do? And now with organizations coming together and putting together programs where they capacity build these communities, and they let them know that there are other ways of creating and making livelihoods, so that then they don't solely depend on one thing and they can combine these things to allow them to be able to adapt to these effects. Because, like you're saying, we can make sure that we are able to continue to live and continue to take care of the earth, so that the earth can continue also to take care of us, like you're saying.
Of course.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a give and take stuff. So and let's get back to what we have to. I'm sorry, Eve. Let's get to talk about what we have today on the table. To you as a person, not known as you can be unbiased at this point. You may want to just take a neutral stand as though I know you're female, but you may want to take a neutral stand at this point. What is your understanding of gender equality?
My own understanding of gender equality basically means people in the society, seeing as we are both men and women in society, are able to access resources equally. So if there is distribution of money or resources or something like human resource, so we are at a job interview, I'm a woman, you are a man, and the only thing that's speaking here is that we've both been given that opportunity. That to me is gender equality, regardless of our socioeconomic backgrounds or any other thing. Everything held constant. You and me. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's fine by me, and I sincerely do understand, because that there is stuff they do around job roles. Oh, a woman cannot do this. A man can only do this, and even at home, and it's quite worrisome because I don't know. Have you ever in your life, in the course of your journey, maybe either career-wise or somehow been faced with a situation whereby you were, turned down as a result of your gender?
Yes.
I just wanted to share this story if something like that had happened to you or someone you know.
Someone I know. Okay. Let me talk about myself, because well, I don't want to speak for anyone else. So those discriminations are there. They can be small, but you can feel them. You can feel someone asking you to take minutes because you're a woman.
Oh, wow.
And they will not obviously come out rightly and tell you, oh, Eve, I know. They'll not tell you it's not because it's a skill set of yours. They'll just assume that we are now in this boardroom and we expect Eve to take minutes. Or they are seated and someone has to go get tea. Or as in, they are very small, but they are indicative of how people view other people based on their gender. They won't tell me, oh, Eve, come speak at this event because we believe you're articulate and we believe that you have the skill and we know that you're going to deliver. They'll first consider other people before coming to you. And there are sometimes unconscious biases or just the way the system is set up. But I've definitely experienced such because of my gender. Whether outrightly say or just small acts of, actions that people take in the office or elsewhere.
Okay, so can I apologize on their behalf now? Having to.
Well, I mean, yeah.
All right, so you accept my apology. Now let's go to how to bringing in the climate justice aspect of this conversation. How do you fit in gender equality in the lenses of climate justice? Has there been a thing like, because I know globally that female suffers more because of the what's it called? How vulnerable they are. They suffer more to the impact of climate change. So how do we fit in the gender equality into the climate justice lens? I know you are a climate justice advocate.
Yeah. So climate justice is all about ensuring representation, inclusion, and protection of rights of those that are most vulnerable. And you can't get more into justice and into the gender equality aspect by just that definition. So by women being more vulnerable to the effects of climate change, then it now all directly fits into the climate justice space, because they are directly being impacted by the impacts of climate. if they have to walk long distances to go and fetch firewood and or to fetch water, what are the implications of their security? Who is taking care of them in that instance, you know? And so we are now saying that we have to look at that lens, that if someone has to go and fetch water, how are we distributing those roles, and why and how are we ensuring a collaborative effort so that the woman is not continuously exposed to gender violence, or worst case scenario, anything could happen to them when they're taking care of the family and their livelihoods are dependent on what it is that they do. If they are no longer able to farm, or they are no longer able to rear cattle or goats, or be able to milk their cows, because cause and effect. If there is no food for the cows, there's no milk. If there is no grazing, there's no, we now can't sell these cows. Like, all of it ties together, and all trickling down all the way from the effects of climate change. And so we are saying, empower the women to be able, because you can't just leave them behind. Empower them. Let them know there are multiple ways of combining things so that they are able to sustain their livelihoods.
All right, thank you very much, Eve. I think you raised some very valid point there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Environmental Resort on ERN-TV, and our guest, a very fantastic lady. So far, she's been talking excellently with regards to gender equality and in the lenses of climate justice. And I'm so good to have her today. Please, you can join this conversation live on YouTube, on Facebook. On our YouTube channel, you can go to ERN-TV. And then on Facebook, you go to ERN-TV, and then we are live even on my personal page, Ediong Singing in Dunova. And please, also, if you're on LinkedIn, you can also join this conversation on Ediong Singing in Dunova. And fantastically, we have Eve, a very dynamic lady who's been, campaigning for climate justice, and of course, she's been talking about the gender issues and all of those. And in Kenya, there's no difference, talking about the African culture. And that is why, that's basically what informed our decision of bringing her to the conversation today. So please feel free to join the conversation. You can share your comments, and it will be, stream on the screen. And then perhaps if there are questions, our guests can get to respond to them. Let me get back to you, Eve. Eve, are you there?
Yes, Ediong, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. So you were talking about empowering women so that they could be able to, stand in the face of climate change. What are those things you feel? What are those areas or those things you think can be done, or feel can be done for women so that they can be empowered?
Okay, let me talk about in the face of, say, something like agriculture, right? Combining technological advancements and not solely relying on traditional ways of farming could potentially increase the resilience of women in the face of climate change. So we find when farming, you want to include some mechanical equipment so that you either farm a bigger piece of land and then you are able to store that, whatever it is that you acquire from that. But how many women can we say can drive a tractor, or can be able to tow the land or prepare the land in ways the way the men do? There are these lines where the men do the tractors or towing the land with the other traditional ways, and then the women have to use they call them jembes here. What are they called? Hose and I'm trying to look for the word, but just basically I'm saying including things that are more evolved. Like, we cannot solely rely on traditional ways of farming and agriculture. We also need to know the kind of seeds that we are farming, right? If women and men alike, of course, but here specifically discussing women, is institutions of research where they found that seeds are able to do better with less rainfall. Then do they know about these seeds, or are they continuously farming with seeds that they have been doing so for the last, because they're relying on past information? Also, they have do they have access to information on their phones? Like, are we assuming that these women, because they are rural women, are they getting the information that us guys are getting on when will it rain? Are there any delays? And if there are any, then how then do you shift gears and then allow yourself to either extend the period of preparing your land, or then how just then do you adjust? How do you pivot in that case and then allow yourself to not get caught off guard? So things like that, innovations and technological advancements, combining that with traditional ways of doing things and the indigenous knowledge as well, I feel would be quite ample for women to be able to adapt and build their resilience towards the effects of climate change.
Excellent, excellent. When you said something about how the female gender could drive a tractor, but I know we have female mechanics nowadays. People that are into building the vehicles and stuff. So there's nothing really about not trying to train a woman or not training a woman to see that they too also, or she too also take on these very key areas. And then. So I truly understand with you. Now let's come back to the African perspective, because I know what is unique to you guys in East Africa may also be the same thing that is happening here in West Africa. What has been those traditions that you feel that are inimical to the growth of women, or perhaps trying to be a start in the process of trying to balance gender or gender roles, perhaps?
Let's talk about the case of land ownership. I don't know in many countries, but in Kenya, it's still a challenge for a woman to own land on her own. It's a report that was nearly done. It's nearly a decade after an act was passed. Only 10% of Kenyan women own land title deeds, according to statistics from an organization called KLA. With this, you find, so how do you expect, or how do you challenge such a thing in, like you're saying, Africa as a continent? Those are some of the traditional roles or ways of doing things that no longer serve us, right? If women were able to own more land, and then they have the autonomy, and they have this they know what to do with this land, they've acquired it, then they have to decide what to do with it. How do you make it how do you make it arable? How is it able to generate income for you? And with that, you are able to also show younger generations how to build on something. That's just top of my head, one of the issues that I'm sure maybe even in Nigeria, women are not allowed to own land. It's changing. We are not disputing that, but we still have a long way to go in terms of creating ways through which women are empowered, and that's one of the ways.
I actually had to ask that question intentionally, because I thought that was only endemic to where I am engaging you from Nigeria. But I think it's generic now, and it's across Africa. If it's happening in East Africa, that means, and it's happening also in Western Africa, that means it's all over the place, and we should see how to discourage such. Okay, so if there's something, because I think I read on the internet or somewhere, they said, or this a popular catchphrase, women supporting women. I want to ask, are women speaking up enough to raise the proper awareness on these issues?
I feel that they are. Sometimes we get lost in the noise of the media when something is sensationalized and it's made to appear as though it's a norm. And true to it, maybe in particular circles, and like you're saying on the internet, you'll find a lot of women clashing. And so to answer your question, are women doing enough to support each other? I'll say yes. I feel supported in most ways than not. Professionally, there could be challenges, of course, but at the core of it, I do feel supported to pursue my dreams, to pursue my personal development goals, and because there are specific spaces. I'll talk about an organization which I'm part of. It's called Women in Safety Excellence, and it's just a community of women. It's an association of women in safety and security, where it's purely women. The entire organization is women. And so
Okay.
we meet once in a while and exchange ideas. So it's an opportunity for networking. You get to meet women in various sectors. Like this one specifically is special because these are women in security. So these are women who are they are formerly police officers. They are formerly or they own security companies, and it's not every day that you hear or every day that women pursue that area of expertise. But in this scenario, this is what women are doing, and it's beautiful to see women embracing non-conventional careers and non-conventional areas of profession. And so, are women doing enough? I think they are. I think they just need more support from policymakers and other women as well, and men too, because gender is not about women. Gender is about both men and
you
women.
hit the nail on the head there,
Yes,
and I would like you to talk more about that.
but yes, gender is not about women, and it's this emotive topic, and I think we need to move away from that and just focus on the issues at hand, because they're real issues, things, Ed Young, that you would never understand because only us women understand. And so what we need to begin to see then is an appreciation of what women go through on a daily basis, and then implement that or infuse that in the policies that shape that shape how we lead, and in governance, and in all the spaces that we occupy. Something that ties into that was I wanted to mention something about this International Women's Day was actually about equity. And equity then translates, it moves away from equality, because equality means everyone gets the same thing, right? If it's resources, all of us get. If it's bicycles, all of us get. There were various illustrations on the internet that were making their rounds, and they were fantastic illustrations. But equity means that you cater to a specific need of that person. So if it's something like people living with disabilities, and all of us are given bikes. If a person living with disability is given a bike that you and I, Ediong, are given, they will not be able to ride it, right? But if they are given a bicycle that is that caters to their specific need or their specific challenge, then they're able to ride. And so with that consideration, or with that at the back of our minds, then we are able to understand everyone's special and unique circumstances, and then adopt or pivot policies and other things around such things. So I hope I answered your question. Sometimes you get riled up and you just go on, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that about equity and equality. Yeah.
Thank you. That was fantastic. If you have a question here from Mr. Abu Steven, he says, beautiful conversation with Miss Evelyn Wandaka. The question is, from your years of experience, what's the most potent ways or strategies in advocating for women land rights?
First, I think I should mention that land rights are created under the law, right? Every country has a constitution that they operate under. And so the fastest way to deal with land rights then is to review what's already there, right? And then incorporate the ever-changing way that things are happening, and incorporate that A, women can own land, B, why women owning land is important for building economies and building a sustainable future for our societies. So I just think the people who make the laws need to understand that. And once that is done, then I think we will have an easier time advocating for women's rights to own land across the board. I don't think there's an aha moment or thing that we need to actually do. I think people just need to accept that this is how things are in the 21st century and allow women to own land. And so those mechanics, access to justice, we just need, because we are all humans, and that's just at the basis of it all. Yeah. Check your sound. I can't hear you.
Hello, Eve. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. Yeah.
All right, perfect. No, I had talked about, I had made it talked about women supporting women, and so I just want to take in something that where laws are made in the parliament, and you need to women basically need to see that and that more women, that they have more women, that they will have more women in the parliament. That way, I think you two guys still can also influence government policies and perhaps sponsor bills. And as a communication specialist, I think also you would want to learn how to craft those stuff and see how to push them through your representative or representation at the parliament. That way, you could have also made a mark rather.
Definitely, but Eddie, do you as a person think that it's the way we say things that's why these things don't happen for us?
Okay, I think you're hitting me back now. But then I think what we should also, we as a people, you've been talking about the 21st century, we should also evolve with the time and see that we adjust to because I learned in other clients that we have female mayors, and recently in the UK the Queen just passed, and she's been there over the time, and we've been having a queen rule over the UK and England rather, and then by extension the places that were having sovereignty over. So there's nothing really that we cannot learn and change if you truly.
In fact, if anything, matriarchal societies are quite thriving, if I do say so myself. Like most communities across Africa, if you look back, societies that were led by women were extremely productive. And that's what we want to see, right? Women being allowed to lead and to take up that space without being sneered upon, like, oh no, she's a woman, and now because she's in a position of power, like those narratives need to stop, right? We need to give women their flowers, and we need to allow them to thrive and to show the world that we can take sustainability to the next level, or we can actually achieve it with us playing a key role. Yeah.
All right, Eve, thank you very much. Okay, I would like to thank you sincerely for being a part of this conversation today. This is EINTV, and of course we are an environmental research where we talk about issues surrounding the environment, climate change, and everything. And today we've had a very fantastic lady, Eve Wandaka. Then she's been very amazing. She's giving hitting the nail on the head with regards to the condition of today. And we've been looking at gender equality from the climate justice lenses. And I want to tell you that it's been quite engaging. And Eve is not taking it easy with me today. And I want to applaud her for such a feat. So Eve, let's get back to you before we wrap up this conversation. Sure. I want us to come back to the African woman. I understand that African woman exudes strength. But these stories evolved around the African woman of years ago, and I would like to put it in yesteryears. Do the African woman of today, I had asked you about women supporting women. Then the exuding of strength, passion, character, charisma. Do the African woman of today fit into this role, this attribute, to see that we have, a just society where even without clamoring for the issue of climate justice with regards to gender equality, that without making so much noise, that African woman can be always recognized, whether in the boardroom, in the ballroom, and wherever.
Well, Ediong, first, I don't think that we are going to be heard if we don't continue making noise. Because that's the space, or that's the circumstance that's surrounding the African woman of today, right? That for you to be able to be heard, I have to make noise. That is what needs to change.
Absolutely.
And that will not come from us. That will come from the environment that we are continuously in. If I walk into a boardroom and I don't need to feel or I'm not focused on what I'm wearing, or am I on my period this week, or did I feed my kids, or was my husband well dressed, or if that's not the frame of mind I walk into the boardroom with, then my exusion of strength will definitely come out in my knowledge, in my skill set, in my ability to articulate what needs to be articulated at that given moment. And like we are saying, times have changed, and the exusion of strength definitely then must change. We cannot claim to have moved miles and miles from what the African woman was and then expect it to have remained the same. I think we just need to be allowed, like I said, to have transformative changes within ourselves and within the societies that we live in. To be able to say, I don't want to get married, and that's okay. I don't want children, and that's fine. I want to pursue my career, but also have children or get married, and that should also be fine. So placing this enormous responsibility on an African woman to maintain things that are, in my view, they have changed. That does not look like that for the African woman today. Then I think we'll be missing the point by continuously relying on information that we used 40, 50 years ago. And if you look at it, those women had these ideas. They were just suppressed in one way or another. And so we are appreciative of the fact that we can now express ourselves the way we are, like having this conversation with you today, of course. But we want more. We want to be listened to. We don't want to be dismissed when the issue is not revolving around our male counterparts. And we need you as men to hear us when we say what we are saying without attack. We are not trying to attack you. We don't have an agenda to attack you. We want to peacefully coexist in a society that is conducive for us all. That's all we want.
Okay, I think that's the key point, that we have to coexist as a people, yes. Not as man or woman, but as a people. If I must thank you sincerely. I would love to have this conversation as long as possible, but time is never a friend, and then we just have to work with time and see that we frame everything within its operation. So, before we wrap up this conversation, I would like you to raise a few interventions, and then we cut it off for tonight.
Say that again.
I said I would like you to raise a few interventions before we call it a wrap for tonight.
Okay. So I would like to see policymakers and African governments put more emphasis on trainings and leadership trainings on climate justice. It's a fairly new area of interest, but it's a dynamic area, and it continues to permeate in all areas of our lives. So you can't talk about climate justice and not talk about sustainability. You can't talk about climate justice and not talk about gender, like we are discussing today. You cannot talk about climate justice and not talk about health. You cannot talk about climate justice and not talk about just transition or clean energy. You cannot talk about climate justice and not talk about health. And so it encapsulates all that we experience in our society in general. And so governments must put more, like it shouldn't be other, how when they are allocating budgets and implementing programs that are geared towards ensuring a sustainable future for all, then they must include trainings and capacity building for young people, women, and typically everyone, and lay a lot of emphasis on ensuring that people understand, first of all, what it is and how it affects them, and how then they can play a key role in ensuring that we are able to fight these effects of climate crisis, because they are coming and they continue. We are seeing all these cases in Malawi, and the cyclone has ravaged so many homes, and our hearts go out to them. And so emphasis, I call upon governments and individuals as well. Take it upon yourself to know, how can I, as Eve or Ediong, contribute to healthier, more sustainable environment, and in general, contribute to climate justice.
Thank you, Eve. But before I let you go, there's this question from Ms. Ekemini Jacobs. I wanted you to end this conversation with that intervention, but I think it's important I ask you this question, and you have to be as brief as possible with your response. Okay. Can you see the question on your screen? Or should I read it out for you?
Just read it. I can see. Oh, okay. I've seen. So, from various experiences and interactions, I have noticed that many women prefer to work with men, vote for men in elections, and generally prefer men in leadership positions, with the argument that their fellow women are always too tough, proud, or pompous.
This.
So is that the end of the question?
So proud, pompous, and toxic. This boils down to the women supporting women stuff I asked you earlier. So don't you think there are problems here, and women to even have issues with their fellow women? Don't you think these are the issues? This is more like starting a conventional friend, but just give your thought on it.
But Jacobs, like I said, these are stories that continue to be told, time and time again. If people or media or other women come out and give stories of how other women supported them, then I think we'll kill this narrative, because I don't want to say it's a false narrative, but it's a narrative that is populated with bad intentions. It also keeps you down. Now I can't go for a promotion position because Maria over there thinks I'm going to become a bad boss. Sometimes they become a bad boss, or they become a pompous, proud boss, because no one else is listening to reason, or some other circumstances that don't allow her to thrive, having not been quote unquote the B word, So I feel as though people focus on the wrong things when we are having discussions. And I know for a fact that women do support other women. And again, these are narratives that deny us to move away from women that don't support other women. Like I said myself, I have experienced tons of support from women, and I can't emphasize enough that there is indeed support for women by women. It's just a matter of amplifying those stories and then quieting down these other ones, because they're actually very few, but they're the ones that are loudest, and they're the ones that people often listen to.
that was a fantastic hit there, Eve. So I on that note, want to also emphasize that the good deeds of women be projected more, and see that women truly support themselves. Thank you so very much, Eve, for being a part of this conversation, and I hope to have you again whenever the need arises.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. I'd like to read a quote from UNDP women. that it says transformative changes requires that legal frameworks empower women, enable their engagement, and protect their environmental rights. So if you didn't hear anything else on this live, remember that legal frameworks must be put in place for women to continue to thrive.
All right. Thank you very much, Eve. And then, with that, I would like to thank you again. Please, just keep doing what you're doing in Kenya and keep making sure that your impact is felt across the globe, not just Africa and not just, just everywhere. And on this note, I would like to wish you personally Happy International Women's Day. And to every African woman out there, Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Edion, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
You're welcome, Eve. All right, so today on the Environmental Resort, we've been having a very fantastic engagement, and our guest for today was none other than Evelyn Wandaka from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and she's been fielding questions on the topic gender equality, looking at it from the gender climate justice lenses. And you would agree with me that she did justice to the conversation today. And I want to encourage every woman out there, please, like the last question Mr. Kevin Jacob asked, talking about women looking at their fellow women as being proud, pompous, toxic, and what have you. Please, we should do away with such mental attitude. If you do away with such mental attitude, you see that the woman out there, not just the Ngozi Ogonjo-Iweala of this world, and some other women who are doing fantastically well would be heard. A lot of women across the globe, not just in Africa, but particularly in Africa, we will be heard more. Do not forget, an African woman is intelligent. An African woman is smart. An African woman is empathic. An African woman is just those beautiful attributes you would describe of a person. And do not forget, an African woman and every woman is not less a human. So we must at this point look at everyone to be first human before being attributed whatever gender, whether male or female. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Then to everyone that has been a part of this conversation, thank you. And to you that will come across this conversation, thank you. Do not forget to watch, share, invite your friends to learn from these lessons. Today, I would like to say a very big thank you to our partners and our sponsors, Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, Climate and Sustainable Development Network, and Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Thank you for always being a partner, for seeing that we do the little things we do from our corner. And with this, I want to say thank you for being a part of this conversation today. See you on the next edition. Good night.
This is ERN-TV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature, societal issues, education, business, and innovation. ERN-TV, educative, innovative, and nature-centric.